to get our students to meet some of the faculty that they haven't had a chance to meet because they haven't had them in class yet. And now you're putting together your committees and you want to know, oh, who am I going to put as my first and second reader in particular on your committees? So we tried this last year and it worked really well. And we're trying it again this year, having our faculty meet and talk a little bit about themselves and their research interests and how they might work with you as on a dissertation committee. And it'll be a quick, it's not lengthy, it's just sort of an introduction. And if you've got some questions, we can pop up with some questions. And I want to thank Stephen, Dr. Bronak, for being our first person this evening to introduce himself to you all. And Dr. Bronak, we'll let you go ahead and do your introduction.
I guess I'm lead guinea pig tonight, huh?
I didn't want to say that.
Thanks, Sharon. And thank all of you for inviting me here tonight and for being here. So I'm Steve. This is my 5th year here, but I've been in higher ed since 1998, and I am a professor in the College of Education in the Department of Education, Leadership, and Technology. My area of expertise is instructional technology, and the area that I've been working in particular are in immersive technologies like virtual worlds, games and simulations. I taught the very first web-based course at Lehigh University on the precursor to Blackboard, which is called Course Info, right around the turn of the century. So I've been, when I was in graduate school, I went to undergraduate at Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina. I was on a baseball scholarship. I was a baseball player.
Oh, wow, I've been there.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yay.
Cool.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, so that's the only way a Brooklyn boy from Bensonhurst is going to find Boone is through baseball. But I was an English major and became an English teacher. And my principal brought me in one day and said, "I've got great news for you, Steve. If you'll teach all the freshman English classes and if you'll drive the bus in the morning and coach the JV baseball team, we'll pay you $21,500 instead of $20." So that ran me right back to graduate school. I was teaching. I was in the library. I brought a group of kids to the library who I couldn't get to crack open a book. But I couldn't peel them off of the computer screen, and they had discovered something called hypertext. I didn't know anything about it, so I went to school to learn more about it. And while I was in school, something called HTML was invented, and I just kind of learned about that. And that's what got an English teacher into technology, and brought me around about here. So here at CSUSB, I teach in the instructional technology program. I teach primarily for us, actually, our research courses. So in the fall, I teach an action research class. And in the spring, I teach a general kind of survey class. And in the falls, last 2 years, I've been teaching a writing for graduate students course that no one's taking. But if you're looking for something that could be useful, I'd love to have you in that class. You can tap into my English teacher ways. So that's kind of me, and I'm open to any questions. I'm teaching and Sharon, you'll be able to, you'll be able to tell them better what course I'm teaching. But as I understand it, it's kind of a historical perspectives of higher ed course, right?
Yep.
And I'm really looking forward to teaching that this summer. It'll be my first course teaching in this program, although I've taught in doctoral programs in other places along the way. So that's me.
Great. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or want to know anything else? Have you served on dissertation committees as a second reader
Here,
or
no.
first reader or any? Yeah.
I've not served on anybody's committees since I've been here at CSUSB. However, at Clemson and at Lehigh and I believe at UW, at University of West Georgia. Certainly, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember, but definitely at Clemson and Lehigh, I both served on and chaired dissertations.
Great, great.
Yeah.
And can you remember kind of the areas of what the dissertations were about?
Yes. So mostly in teacher training, teacher education with the technology bend, obviously. School university partnerships from a kind of a pedagogical bend. I am a social constructivist at the core. And so looking for kind of those kinds of flattened collaborative relationships. I have looked at social presence, teaching presence. So the idea of presence both in the classroom and online, kind of how that impacts the efficacy and relationships between folks. It's kind of been my lane, if you will. What else?
Well, I'd like to just point out that if you hadn't yet, I'm sure you are aware, but we'll just remind you that you're going to be teaching both cohort 14 and 15. So you get a little bit of both. And I think I counted.
Just the higher ed folks.
Yeah, just the higher ed group. So it's roughly about like 17 or something like that.
Wow.
Something around there. But it's going to be fun.
I'm stoked. I can't wait to do it. I'm really excited about being across cohorts. And I know, as odd as this may sound to many, I'm really excited about having a group that has had to come through this COVID thing. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I assume that when we all get together this summer, part of that group is going to have come from a more traditional start, and then got thrown out. And then part of that group is going to have started kind of COVID-ish, right? And I'm just going to be real curious to see how that's impacting your all experience and how I can adapt what I do to you to fit now our new realities, right? Because as far as I'm concerned, that toothpaste is out of the tube. So we can talk about that this summer.
And I think you're teaching 15 and 16, right? Is that right? Or
That's
14 and 15?
14 and 15.
Well, they're both great cohorts. And 14, they were the first cohort to be under this new executive model and with the new qualifying exam. So they're all ready really to get moving on their dissertation. And 15 this is their second summer, first summer. And you know, they already have, some of them have already picked dissertation chairs, but most of them haven't picked second committee members yet. So but it should be, both of them, they are go-getters, I'll tell you. Both of those cohorts are really movers and shakers, so you're going to enjoy them, I think.
Well, I'm excited to hear that. We certainly need more folks with enthusiasm.
Great.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? The way you support that, the course that you say is under enrolled, your graduate students writing course. And I'll be sure to let April Lane know. She's the one of the coordinator. She's not a coordinator, but she's a graduate student support person. And I'll let her know.
Yeah.
Because we always do need additional writing support. And I know that you've tried to come to our writing sessions, but we're on Wednesday nights.
And I teach. I have a class.
Well, yeah, you teach Wednesday nights,
so that didn't work. But when we, now that I know, right, and we can plan ahead, we can make it so that I'd love to be a part of that and help however I can. So we created the course. I've only taught it twice, so it's still kind of forming. But the idea is we have a lot of international students in our program, and so we thought, let's create an academic writing course specifically for that purpose. But I know we didn't do it right the first time. and I think we did it a little bit better this time, but we didn't have a whole lot of students around. Because I think really, I think we missed the mark in looking at just an international perspective, because
Right.
because really an academic writing for graduate students course just in general, I think
Mhm.
is kind of universally useful. And it kind of doesn't matter
Absolutely.
what your first language is. This is a formula to learn, and it works in any language basically. So
Mhm.
those are my
I would be interested in knowing if when it's being offered
full.
and for fall. Okay. And what do you know if it's a scheduled time and date, particular day or time?
You tell me.
Well, I'm curious because I mean, I know that maybe some students might be interested if
Yeah.
it's a flexible syllabus
Yeah.
where it's, can I take my dissertation work and work on it in that course to have more structure, right?
I'm happy
That's
to do
what,
it. I'm happy to do it as an online asynchronous course.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure cohort 14 for sure would love that. Cohort 15, what do you think? I mean, I'll put it this way, the doctoral program, you're paying the top tuition anyway. So if you add one more course,
You
it's gonna
don't have to pay anymore.
yeah, it's going to cost the same. And if it's asynchronous and you're just kind of using it for accountability purposes, it may be helping you move along. If I needed accountability, like, and I mean, it's life. That's really what it is. Life gets in the way. So maybe we'll talk more, Stephen.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Michael, Love, you have a question?
Hi, Dr. Bronak. Michael Love, current cohort 15. My question, so what I've realized just in my lifetime is how technology and gaming has changed. Like I remember it funny, I had posted something and it was talking about like, how old you are if you had to change to turn your TV to channel 3 to play games. So I'm coming from that era and having to get in trouble for playing games too much, and I get older and I'm realizing that I never forget, maybe if it was 10 years ago, but seeing how there are e-gaming or e-sports scholarships. So my question is, I'm looking at primarily in my dissertation topic, engagements and in terms of college culture with Black males and Black women. What I'm looking at, and I see how we've noticed and already prior pandemic, the engagement for Black males online was extremely low. And then the pandemic came and it torpedoed that even further. But most young men of color that I know are into games. How have you seen the emergence of technology as far as gaming increase engagement in the classroom or decrease it, or how has that been useful or not?
Good question.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Michael, and I appreciate you sharing that. There's a lot of layers to your question here, obviously. And I think that I'm going to start with my first thought and reaction, because it reminds me of a conversation that I had when I was a doctoral student at the University of Virginia in 1997. And I was with a writing partner who was an African-American woman, and we were looking over some recent results that we had gotten that were showing that the African-American students in this particular population were not engaging with the web-based materials in a way that we anticipated, and she made a comment that I'll never forget, because I said, what do you think? And she says, well, when you go on the web, what do you see? And of course I said, I see all the, all the great things, right? And she says, you know what I see? I said, no. She says, I see no one who looks like me.
Mm.
And it just floored me. It just floored me. And it was really an important moment for me to realize how important it is to see ourselves in the spaces, to be a part of those spaces, right? There's kind of there's a sociology, anthropology concept called legitimate peripheral participation, right? And it's the way kind of we move from being kind of novices to experts in groups. And the way we do it is first we watch, and then we kind of mimic and kind of pretend to know what we're doing, fake it until we make it, right? Right. And as we kind of do herky jerky things, people give us feedback like, yeah, that's good, or no, that's bad. And so that's how we kind of decide how to be like, and it's kind of a spiral thing. But we have to identify, we have to see ourselves into that before we begin to try to be a part of that, right? And even as early as 1995, we were beginning to create a metaverse that was leaving a whole lot of folks out of it from the beginning, right? And so that was a real wake up call for me. And why, if you look at my Vita and the kinds of things that I've been writing about, you'll see a lot of it has this undertow of social justice and equity right out of the gate. Because if we don't have that baked in from the beginning, if we're not intentional about that, then we do run the risk of developing a whole lot of great solutions to problems that a whole population may not have, right? On the flip side, now we have a whole generation of folks who have grown up in a gaming world, no matter where you come from, in a lot of ways, right? And so if we don't kind of bring that into our formal educational environments, then again, I think we're missing an opportunity to meet people where they are, right? And to me, that's what's always drawn me to the gaming and the technology side, is the ability to meet students where they are, right? And go from there, right? And so gaming from a pedagogical standpoint, right, we can now build curriculum that is gamified, right? That allows us to connect. We can now use the same kinds of technologies that our students used to using in their in their kind of in their hedonic lives, and now use them in their utilitarian lives, and make that bridge in really powerful, meaningful, and important to me, present ways. So those are my thoughts on that. I did a TED talk a few years ago on kind of the differences between simulations, games, and virtual worlds, and how they're all creating a new world for learning. And you can look up and watch that.
Great, that's really interesting.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Any last questions for Dr. Bronak? I think good. Thank you, Steve. You're welcome to stay as long as you want. Or
I do have another meeting that I have to go to, I'm afraid, but I do want to make sure that you all know. Feel free to email me or give me a call or whatever if I can ever help you out, even if I'm not going to be on your committee. All right, thanks again for having me here tonight, and good luck to you all.
Thank you so much. Maybe you could drop
somewhere. All right.
If you could drop your email for them in the chat, and maybe if you want to put a contact number, you're welcome to.
Yep.
Thank you.
And thank you for following up, Stephen, from when we talked that first time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
You followed up, and so here you are. So hopefully it all comes together.
I appreciate you, Enrique.
All right.
That's my cell, guys. You can text or call if you need.
Nice. Thank you.
have a good evening.
Okay. Good night.
Okay.
So our next speaker couldn't be with us this evening, but he did send us a short video clip.
Oh, cool.
I'll go ahead and share that with you. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear the sound okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Hughes. I'm currently an associate professor in the College of Education, specifically the Career and Technical Education program. I've been reflecting on the mentors that I have and have had in my experiences. I think that there were some key characteristics in these experiences that I would try to emulate, including a team mentality. And this is basically where there's an understanding that for people to be successful, they need other people to help. And communication, which during my reflection, I realized that my mentor spent a lot of time listening to me process things verbally. So again, communication is really about not just speaking, but also actively listening. Additionally, openness. My mentors were always available to me and approachable when I needed to meet with them or I had something that I wanted to discuss with them. And finally, honesty. Before arriving at CSUSB, I worked as an engineer, a teacher in residential construction, commercial and residential roofing, and owned my own businesses. I enjoyed the problem solving involved in these disciplines. My engineering experiences focused mostly on manufacturing and design, but I also spent some time managing quality control. I have about 16 years of teaching experience at different levels. I taught at the elementary, middle, and high school level, as well as at the university level. I'm actively involved in several research projects. I personally primarily focus my research on improving student success in post-secondary engineering experiences, or more broadly, STEM experiences. I try to address student success through two different approaches, one focusing on the students and the other focusing on the teachers. In both approaches, there is an emphasis placed on developing awareness, skills, and abilities related to engineering habits of mind, engineering knowledge, and engineering practices. I'm commonly asked why engineering education is so important to me. The idea of properly preparing students for post-secondary engineering programs has occupied my mind and research efforts for the last 20 years. My experience growing up, both inside and outside of the classroom, gave me the thinking and practical skills necessary to forge a path as a successful engineer. These experiences ranged from some so basic that it would be hard to imagine they had any impact, to some long-term experiences that allowed me to see relevant applications of learning more content. I look forward to getting to meet everyone and learn together during this experience.
So that was Dr. Andrew Hughes.
And a couple of things, Dr. Hughes has chaired a number of dissertations, and he's served on second reader for lots of dissertations. He's teaching a class this summer, and he's taught in our program for a number of years. So he's one of our core faculty. So that was very nice of him to do that video.
Absolutely. He wasn't feeling too well and he still sent me that video. So I was like, great, thank you. Yeah, and if you have any questions or if you want to reach out to him, his CV and contact information is also in that folder. I'll go ahead and repost the folder one more time. We had
Hi, Jacqueline.
a few people join. So I'll go ahead and repost.
Is Nancy going to be here today?
She has said yes.
Okay.
I didn't see, I know we got a last minute cancellation from Dr. Sombera, but we had a few additions
Oh, good.
through the day. So they want to keep me on my toes. So yeah, so maybe we'll have you go a little bit earlier. So Shannon, if you are ready to roll, I'll have you go.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Shannon Sparks. I'm in the Department of Special Education, Rehabilitation, and Counseling. So excited to come here tonight and get to know some of you. My passion, I didn't even know what my passion was, to be quite honest. I just remember that I graduated in '96, and I remember it to this very day, my aunt coming in the driveway and say, what are you going to do? What are you going to do next? And I was like, she's like, you need to apply at the school district. I'm like, okay. I didn't know what I wanted to do, because I worked for my father's business. He was a construction worker. And I thought, maybe I could just continue helping with that. But it was time for me to get a job. So I applied for our local Clark County School District here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I remember going on the interview and they're like, what has been your experience working with kids? And I'm like, okay, my aunt had a lot of kids growing up that were high needs and some were addicted to drugs. So I did a lot of babysitting, and they're like, you're going into special education. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know. I didn't realize though what a passion it would become for me. So I worked with students one-on-one. I worked with students with autism, students with intellectual disabilities, and I loved it. But also, I thought at some point I needed to move out, so I was going to go and become a secretary. And I kept going up the chain of command, and they said, okay, the next spot was going to be the principal secretary. And I thought, nope, I want to go back to special education. So an opportunity opened up at UNLV with the Clark County School District, and I went back. I think I got my bachelor's. Yep, I got my bachelor's at UNLV, and I kept on continuing and chugging along. And I got my master's as well. And I remember I wanted to teach students in high school because my passion was working with students with disability in the high school setting, secondary, middle school. I could not do all this hormones. I could not handle it. And then elementary school, I was not going to be singing early childhood songs and singing. Just was not going to happen. And if you know me, and I've taught in my classes, I'm like, early childhood, I love my peeps, but I cannot do the little ones. I'm a high school person all the way. So I worked at Coronado High School here in Henderson, Nevada, and I loved it. And then an opportunity arose to go and get my PhD. And I thought, what the heck, I'm just going to go for it. So I did. And 2013, I decided now was a good time to have a child and also walk with my PhD. And I have a little 8-year-old in the other room who's wild. And I was 8.5 months pregnant walking. And I'll never forget my dissertation chair saying, you can just immediately leave when you come off the stage. I was like, yeah, because I don't think I'm going to make it. I'm like ready to have this kid. So I did my dissertation on choice making and teaching individuals with intellectual disability choices, because you know why? Choice making is a component of self-determination, and is so important for our young men and young women to know that there are choices. And I don't think this just applies for the kids with disabilities. I think everyone needs an IEP to know that you get a credit card. What happens when you turn 18? You get that credit card, right? And it's like, what do you want to do? You want to apply for that credit card right away. So just knowing that teaching those life skills, that self-determination, and those are my passion: quality of life, self-determination, and seeing our, because our kids, they're young adults, but their IEP goes away at the age of 22. So I really am, my heart lies in what happens when, they go into adulthood. What happens? That IEP doesn't follow you. So my main areas of focus are self-determination, inclusion, quality of life, and intellectual disabilities and autism, and positive behavior supports, because positive behavior supports are so important. It's called being proactive instead of reactive. And if so many of those things can be taught to our kids, even starting young, it just changes the whole dynamic of things, So I have served on a dissertation committee as a second reader, but this year I had 2 students reach out to me in the areas of transition, as well as the areas of, I think, inclusion as well. So those are my areas of passion, and I'm working alongside Jimmy as well with Dr. Sambera, and we're working on inclusive practices. And so we're having a lot of fun with that, and getting to connect with them is so much fun. It kind of brings back old memories of having that collaborative piece. So,
and you're writing a chapter, aren't you? With those?
Yes, we're doing that. And it's so great because you get that. Oh, I love that $sign money bags. Okay, that's cute, Jimmy. But just being able to feel that connection, excitingness that you guys have, it really rubs off onto me as well. And it's just an exciting time, and I'm excited for you guys as well because it's such a new journey and it's fun. So however I can be of assistance, if you need a special education point of view, I'm more than happy to offer anything. Now, I am the program coordinator, so sometimes I'm a little crazy, but the best thing is to call. I'll put my cell phone in the chat and I'll put my email as well. But if you need anything, just know that I'll be there to support or be a cheerleader. I'm a good counselor too.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Really appreciate that you came tonight. Thank you.
No, it's important. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Students, anybody have any questions for Dr. Sparks? She's actually been one of our faculty members for pretty long time, even though you just started serving on dissertation. You've been here, I think, longer than I have been. So
How long have I been here? I don't know. I think it's my 6th year. Yes. And then previously to that, I worked at UNLV here in Las Vegas and was adjunct faculty. So
that's great.
I've had a lot of higher ed experience. They threw me into every course.
Great. Any questions for Dr. Sparks? No? Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Sparks. We do have Nancy who joined us as well. So we'll do one of the breakout rooms after we hear Nancy, so that way we have enough people and enough students so we could do some breakout room to have a little bit more conversation.
All righty.
All right. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Nancy. Dr.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you.
So are we just sharing some of our work, Audrey? Is that
Yeah, just introduce, to say a little bit about yourself. You know, this is kind of informal. We said if we were doing this in person, we'd have wine and cheese and, you know, we'd be just talking to everybody. So tell us a little bit about maybe your education, where you got your doctorate, and just, you know, what you're interested in.
All right. And you all will hear in the background, my daughter's over here having dinner. So I went to undergrad as a first-generation college student, and I was really influenced by my cousin stepping in and guiding me through that process, the choice process. But I'm a first-gen student from Northern California, worked in the agricultural fields since middle school in the summers. And my parents were agricultural workers. Now they've transitioned to different employments. And so as a freshman in high school, I was enrolled in Rafael Rivera came into my English classroom and said that if we wanted to go to college, we should sign up to his program. And so he was my trio counselor, luckily for all 4 years, because he stuck around with the program. And so he's the one who helped me understand some of the knowledge as to what courses I needed to be taking. But it was my cousin who helped me make the strategic decision to choose UC Berkeley over University of the Pacific. And I was choosing University of the Pacific because it had a 14-to-1 ratio for student to faculty. I remember that. But once I visited the campus, it was really quiet and it just was not a good fit. And I was still gonna go, except for my cousin came and like nagged me for about an hour and then said, you can choose to go anywhere else after this year, but you'll never be able to go back into Berkeley. And so I believed her, thinking that it would just, that after a year I could choose to go anywhere else if I didn't like it, which wasn't necessarily true, but that's what worked it for me. And at Berkeley, every semester I took a Chicano studies course, and it was the fun course that I would take. And just understanding what research, the meaning of research, took a few years. They pushed research on us a lot. The Pinner Scholars Program was there. I couldn't understand why anybody would do graduate school if my intention was just to go get a job that was in their conditioned setting. And so I eventually learned from Dr. Blas Guerrero. What research was, where he shared some of his research with the class around the UC Algebra Academy, I think it's called, or Algebra Project. And it was done in the Imperial Valley. And that's where I understood the impact of research and really understood what it meant. And it all clicked when he shared his graduating picture where he's walking across the stage with his 2 kids getting his PhD. And so between him and Professor Josefina Baltodano, who was a lawyer, and she was also led the California Student Aid Commission at one point, and she was president of I think it was one of the universities, I can't remember, one of the private universities. And so she was like a role model for me because she was also a mother and had daughters. And so I was able to envision myself as pursuing a PhD pathway and understanding it, that that'd be a flexible career. That's something that I'd be able to have kids and have a life and still do important work at the same time. And with a lot of help and support from different people, I made it into the master's program, into the PhD. At the same time, I was also a college advisor for East Oakland high schools. And so as I was reading, and as an undergrad, I was reading Gloria Saldúa in ethnic studies courses. I would sit there and understand and be able to see a connection between her concepts that she was sharing as a Chicana feminist theories that she had with, I saw that it aligned with my experiences as a college advisor in these under-resourced high schools, working with Latino students and students of color, first generation students, helping them pursue a college pathway. I could see the connection. I couldn't fully explain it or understand it, but I knew there was something there. And so once I was applying to the PhD program, I was really interested in academic undermatching and understanding why if Latino students had access to four-year college information and had admission to four-year college, they chose not to enroll. And so I remember a meeting with Danny Solorzano, Dr. Danny Solorzano in his office, and he was like fascinated by the idea. He's like, how did you come up with that topic? And I just shared that that's what was happening as I was a college advisor. That was a trend I would notice every year. And so I gained admission there. I really was taking the courses at UCLA, but it wasn't until I was pregnant where I went and I told Danny, and he was super happy and excited. And then he's like, all right, let's set your proposal defense. And so I proposed a couple of days before my due date. And then I ended up moving back up north to the Bay Area to do my dissertation work. And the work that I started to do was using very traditional theories. Was using, yes, critical race theory as a critical perspective, but I started using Hofstra and Gallagher's three-phase choice, the three-phase choice, college choice. I don't have the slide up to share it with you all, but I remember getting pushback from Dr. Michelle Espino and her saying that it didn't fit the Latino student experience. And I had Pat McDonough on my committee who did college culture. So I started to infuse some of that work into my dissertation. And I had Tyrone Howard, who was really instrumental in helping me understand that I didn't have to include every piece of data point into my dissertation. And then I had Leo Estrada, may he rest in peace, who was the one committee member who read my dissertation like cover to cover, and he loved it. He loved the writing, and it was just so validating to get that from him. But it was actually when I was on the job market that I was immersed, applying to Chicano studies programs too as faculty. So I brought back the Gloria Saldúa work. And I was immersed in my data analysis process and immersed in Gloria Saldúa theories and thinking. And so it started to click for me. And I remember showing up to breakfast at a conference, the ASH conference, breakfast with my dissertation chair, and I had it on a napkin. And I said, Danny, I see this connection happening, right? Because I think for me, I just think and I write as soon as I get the idea, or else it just lingers. And so I shared it with him, and I wish I would have recorded that conversation because he was so validating, and it was so powerful for him to see the importance of that work. And now it's slowly developed from, let me see if I could pull this up so you can see the beginning. you could see the beginning, and then you could see the more developed, let me see, college. Just so you all understand that what happens in your dissertation is just like this draft, this working, there it is, this working draft about, and your ideas will continue to develop, continue to evolve if you commit to teasing them apart, you know, and really understanding them. Let me go up and then I'll share with you all the screen. And this was a direct challenge to our understanding of how college choice happens in a very linear 3-phase process starting in middle school. And this was the first, I'm still scrolling up. Let me see, what stage are we on in here? Stage 1, okay, we're almost there. Okay, I scrolled too far. Let me see. So originally it was titled Conocimiento Colegial. And I shared this visual with my committee where arrebato is the first one, decision to attend college, then searching for college, then questioning students' college abilities, then planning for college, and then choosing a specific college and establishing an identity, entering college and clashing, and then what is up here? Eventually developing a college navigating identity, but in the background was Nepantla, where these different strategic decisions are happening. And I remember sitting in my defense and one of my committee members shared, like, you can't do that. You can't just come up with a theory. And it was Leo Estrada, I think, or Tyrone Howard, who said, did you read it? Like, the data is there, you know? And so it was one of my committee members who spoke back to the other committee member, and it was just so powerful to have that happen. And now it eventually developed into a conceptual piece. Let me share that with you all. Just so you can see visually, it looks so different. And also in terms of what it's called. It's now called College Conocimiento. And it's really interesting because I couldn't get this published in a top tier journal. With the data as an empirical study, I couldn't get it published. But now I have folks publishing in the AERA journal, AERJ, reaching out to me and saying, hey, we're gonna use your framework to publish in this journal because the reviewers said we needed to include it, and now it's our guiding framework. And I just think it's so ironic that I couldn't get this work published because at the time it was just too different. And so now you see there, it's still the possibility of it being a cyclical, but there's these different points in time where students can go back and forth between choosing a college and then going back for more information, or entering college and clashing and going back for more information to then choose a different college or stop out. And it accounts for that. And so my work was slowly developed into now the work that we do is, I brought it into a book, which was really exciting because as a first-gen student, I really wanted to write a book and I never thought I could until Dr. Gil Conchas reached out to me. He's like, hey, let's write it. First, he's like, hey, teach me Chicana feminism. And then he's like, let's write a book. And so that's where is it in here? I'm pretty sure it was this one. That's where I would bring in Gloria Anzaldua's work and just her concepts. And we've developed we call it the Chicana Extreme. And it's to challenge the notion of the American dream, with the American dream being very individualistic. And what we found with our data points with our students in our studies is that for Chicano students, they do aspire to have these professional careers, but it was with the intention to also support their families, their communities, to make a difference. So it was this social justice understanding of what success looks like. And that's where I bring in Atravesada, Borderlands, so these notions of Gloria Anzaldúa. And my ethnic studies training as an undergraduate student, where if my ethnic studies training was all about coloniality with Nelson Maldonado Torres and with, I can't remember his name right now, Grosfogel, Ramon Grosfogel. And as an undergrad, I couldn't fully grasp what I was reading because it was like Walter Mignolo and very highly theoretical and big words. As a first gen, it was just a lot for me to process, you know? And so now looking back, I'm able to bridge coloniality with now our current education system, and coloniality as this longstanding patterns of power that emerge as a result of colonialism. But they continue to define culture, labor, relationships, and knowledge production, right? And then so using the state, these different state policies to define who belongs and who doesn't belong, who deserves an education, who doesn't deserve an education. And just bringing in Gloria Anzaldua's work around borderlands, and these concepts of la facultad, the sixth sense to understand what's really happening beneath the surface, that's developed by people who are marginalized. And just noting that that a lot of our students are framed as atravesados, as transgressors, as not belonging in the education system, but through their facultad, through different opportunities that they have limited access to, they become nepantleras, where they're able to see multiple cultures clashing and complementing one another, and then they're able to navigate higher education system. But yeah, that's pretty much my work, where I bridge these two fields of Chicano studies and of higher education traditional theories and frameworks. And it's using critical race theory as my foundational lens. So I say I'm a critical race Chicana feminist scholar. And it was really challenging at first, because I would receive feedback from reviewers saying, amazing work, we need this, and then rejection. But thankfully, Dr. Aurora Chang, who I hired as an editor, explained that this was too much to grasp within one article, and that I had to break it apart into pieces because it's bridging two different fields. And that's the work that I still continue to do and engage with at the community college level, developmental education, at the high school level around college culture, and then at the higher education level in terms of transitions. So thinking about transferring, thinking about enrollment processes and what that entails. And it's all with the intention to just subvert what's already there and push the boundaries a little bit more. Yeah.
Great. Hey.
Yeah, Nancy, I'm going to go like this every time I see you next time. I'm going to go, girl, you made it. Awesome.
So Nancy, you've chaired and been on a number of dissertations. How long have you're one of our core faculty, and how long have you been with the program now?
This is my 8th year with the program.
Great. Okay. And do any of the students have any questions or comments or? No? Okay, well, do you want to leave your contact information in the chat box so people can get a hold of you if they want to? Most of the people have their chairs, Nancy. Some of them are now looking for second committee members. Oh.
So we can do breakout rooms where I'll just split maybe Shannon in one room and Nancy in another, and then we can just kind of bop back and forth between rooms. So I'm gonna hit pause. All right, we got most everybody back, right? Hi, welcome back. Okay. So we're about 6 o'clock. Our Dr. Becky Sambera, thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Acevedo, if you have to go, I understand. But we'll have a few others. We have some other faculty. We have both Dr. Brown-Welty and Dr. Morillo, who can also share a little bit. I was going to ask you ahead of time, but you get the on the spot fly. So if you'd like to kind of fill some time, share a little bit more about yourselves, because while you're our directors, I'm sure that the students don't get to spend so much time with you, because I only get to see you once a week. So And Dr. Murillo is also teaching one of the qualitative courses this summer too, right? So if you want to maybe tell us, Dr. Murillo, if you want to go ahead and share.
Me first? It sound like
You up first.
Sharon wanted to go first.
No, go ahead.
Okay. 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 Well, my name is Enrique. I've been a faculty for 20 something years on our campus. I born and raised in Los Angeles. I have done a lot of things in terms of my educational career. I've been an organizer working with nonprofits, working with workers' rights, renters' rights, working with the undocumented population. I worked for a while as a lobbyist, lobbying for state capital. I mean, I even worked for the coroner, believe it or not. I'm picking up dead bodies. I worked at a car wash. I've been I did social services, like social work. I worked in a homeless shelter for a number of years. I taught literacy, people how to read and write. And I taught English as a second language to adults. Long story short, through my community work, I became very interested in like sociology and psychology, and got my bachelor's at UCLA, and then from there went to Cal State LA, and I worked on several masters and my teaching credentials, and then got recruited into a doctoral program at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So I went back into North Carolina, was there for 4 years. My doctorate is in social foundations. There's only 16 people in the United States who have, it's like a specialized, totally interdisciplinary PhD. So it's sociology, anthropology, history, psychology, what they used, global education, what they used to call international education, and anyways, all those things rolled up into one. And let me see what else. But my specialty of all those things is more sociology and anthropology. I focus on Latinos and the education of Latinos. That's like my specialty. My other specialty, I guess, would be qualitative research methods. And I've done a bunch of things here and there. I served as the commissioner for financial aid. So I did that. I serve as an advisor on immigration matters to Congress people, some of the local Congress folks. Here's something people probably don't know, is that President Obama, I had dinner twice at the White House with President Obama, because one of my books, President Obama used as a blueprint for his educational proposals. And so we're doing that, and a bunch of stuff in between. So there it is.
You're amazing. You have an amazing background. You had your fingers in everything. That's great. We're so lucky to have you.
Sometimes it's a bad thing.
No, I've learned a lot about you tonight as well. Amazing.
Yep. Yep. So you want me to go next?
Well, actually, let me just
have questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Murillo? We have Michael. Go right ahead, Michael.
After all of that, what you have talked about, and then also what you're currently doing and what you would like to do, what is it that you would like to be remembered for?
I kind of see, I mean, I have a personality that either people love or people hate. And so sometimes I'm a villain, sometimes I'm a good guy. But I try to be honest, even if it's not politically correct or diplomatic in the way I approach or come across. I try to be honest, but mostly I think to be of service to others. That's what kind of gives meaning to me. I grew up, my parents were activists. My father was a union organizer. My mother's done a bunch of stuff. And so I kind of see that the lessons they passed on to me is it's important to be of service to other people. And I grew up in poverty and amongst a bunch of things, violence, drugs, gangs, a bunch of things. But just because you're in the fire doesn't mean you have to get burnt. And so I kind of feel that mentorship, being a mentor to other people, help people sort of like a coyote to be a coyote, help them cross, be able to transgress borders and to be in new spaces. But ultimately, I think it'd be nice if I were to be remembered as someone who was of service to others. Whether or not they liked me, that's something else. But I try to be of service for others. Yeah.
I just asked that question because I realized, and I know the saying is as we get older, we realize our own mortality more. And the idea of what the legacy or what do I want to be remembered as matters, because we don't know how long we have. So whenever I'm around individuals of stature, it's like, okay, well, especially listening to everything that you've done, I kind of thought that would be your answer. It didn't seem like you did it out of ego or wanted to just be the best, but it matters. I feel like the legacy we leave and the reason why we do it. So understanding why people have those motivations means something. So.
Yeah, I mean, education, there's no money in education. I kind of feel like, man, if I would have put all this effort in, like I'd be living large. And unfortunately, but I'm living large to how I grew up. So even though, we don't make all that much money in education and so forth. And we make even less money than the professors at community colleges. So our salaries are much lower. Nevertheless, we don't do it right for the money. We do it because we feel like that's our calling. So I always feel that education is really a vocation. It's not a career like to go get, like oftentimes we're taught and socialized, go to school so you can get a good job. And I understand the message, right? That's what kids grow up, go to school so you can get a good job. But for a while, I heavily influenced by Paulo Freire. And I don't know if you've read any of Paulo Freire's stuff. And I was fortunate to serve as this translator on a few occasions. And so Paulo Freire's view of education, I kind of aligned myself with basically education either oppresses you or it can liberate you. And of course, I've always opted for the freedom, the liberatory aspects of education. And so even though there's no material benefits, but compared to how I grew, like I said, compared to how I grew up, I'm like a millionaire. I got a nice house. When people need money in my family, they come to me and I can let you borrow money, or I just give them the money, whatever they need. But in comparison to like the efforts we put in education, it's not, whatever.
Enrique, when I first met you, I know we're not in the same program, but when he asked you that question, I see someone that's very passionate, and your passion comes across, and you are a major advocate for a lot. So I just think your passion comes across, and it's very touching, so to say. So I've always
Thank you.
appreciated that about you when we would be in meetings or you would speak up about things. And I thought, wow, just, it's something that, I wish I could stand up on some things. And
I'm sure you
I,
can. I'm sure you can, right?
I got some work to do, some growth. It's called evolving and growing. But I do.
Are you tenured yet? Okay. So once you got tenure,
yeah, but that doesn't mean anything.
talking smack and doing stuff and letting people know what's up.
So I need your help on that, evolving and growing. But I do think education is not about the paycheck. It never has been, even for me. That's why I always told my students going into education, it's about what you get from the students. That's the most impact that you walk away from, is those interactions with your students. It's very rich and very rewarding, better than any, paycheck. So
yeah, and it's strategic because I forgot to mention earlier, I was a school teacher. So I taught 3rd grade for the LA Unified School District. And what more strategic than being a teacher educator? Because then you're dealing with the other teachers. That's part of my decision also to get the doctorate, so I could be in a position where you have more influence. So
Thank you.
So thank you, Shannon. I've heard good things about you and all the stuff you're doing.
Thank you. Dr. Brown-Welty, I'll have you share just after Dr. Romano so we can honor her time.
Great.
Thank you, Dr. Romano, for jumping on today. So let's hear a little bit from Dr. Jacqueline Romano.
Hi, thank you. Appreciate it. So I'm Jacqueline Romano, and I am a proud alumni of Cal State San Bernardino.
Yay.
Right. I think that the life circle has come to me twice. First, when I was a parent volunteer in my daughter's classroom in kindergarten. I'm an immigrant and came to the United States maybe around 27 years old, so until I ran that. Didn't speak English, so the way for me to learn English was going and volunteer at my daughter's kindergarten and learn like my daughter, the ABCs and the colors and the spelling words. So I did that for 6 years, and I always had in my mind to become a teacher. I applied in Mexico before I moved to the United States. I was attending La Escuela Normal de Maestros, so it's like the big university school for teachers in Mexico. So I feel like I stopped in the middle of that moment and came to the United States. So that's how I started the whole thing. Again, I needed to go back to the classroom. And I really liked I'm 100%. I always said I want to die in a classroom. I knock on wood that that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna be dying as an old person being a teacher. That's how I feel that my life is going. How scary for my students. So just clarify that. And little by little, I went through and I feel like was in first generation, second language learner, the immigrant, and trying to learn about the school system and started my career in the community college. I wanted to be an interpreter for sign language. So special ed is something that I really like. Not just that I like it, is that I have a family member in my mind. I said, we'll be able to communicate with a person that is hard of hearing or who's deaf. But, life happens, and my teacher did not like that, I find that my teacher almost 2 courses away from finishing my certificate at the community college told me I couldn't be an interpreter for the court because I signed with an accent. That's kind of and it really broke my heart. And of course, I'm a very sensitive person. I'm very caring. So I was like, yeah, maybe I will put someone in danger with my accent, right? So I decided to transfer to Cal State, and that's how my life began in the education system. So I said, well, what can I do? So I got my Spanish degree, bachelor's, but I still want to be a teacher. I want to be a bilingual teacher. And that's how I moved forward with my bachelor's in liberal studies. And then my credential, Dr. Murillo was my master, mentor and my master thesis. And interesting enough, what Enrique says, I always have admired Enrique. He has been a great mentor. And I think I like to keep that kind of a role between him and I. We don't talk too much. And I always see him as my mentor and an expert in an area. And thanks to him, I think I pursue my degree for a doctoral because he really inspired me to be something of service, to work with people. Once that I start working in the school, I feel like the best way for me to help others understand is students who are not speakers of English is to be a teacher of teachers. So that's what my passion became. I felt that I was not doing a lot of the work that I needed to reach out to more individuals, and the PhD will help me come back and teach teacher preparation of future teachers. So I end up working, I went to Texas Tech to pursue my PhD, and like Enrique, interested in I became I worked for the House of Representatives once in Texas Tech. I took a year of absence so I can understand really policy, the DC level, Congress level. And I was able to meet President Obama and some, many of the senators and congressmen. And I did my work on with the congressman in Texas. And then I come back and finish my thesis. Now I knew what I wanted. So I work on my thesis with a lot of enthusiasm, at the same time, a little bit of disappointment to see how politics play a big role in education. And that's how my love for educational policy begins, ethics and education. I'm a Freirean as well, so I study a lot of Freire. Everything in my work has to do with Freire. Maxine Greens, Elizabeth Campbell, Dr. Heron, which is all ethics in education. And I put that as spin when I work with my pre-service teachers. Are you an ethical teacher? Because you have to make decisions, and every decision has an action. And each action, you don't know who's going to lead to a good result or a not so good result for the students who are under your care. So this is one of the areas that I emphasize. And ethics, that's kind of my theory. And I also like Andalzua, which I found in a little bit late. I was working with many of bilingual future teachers and having a lot of difficulties passing the state exam for becoming a teacher. And I realized that was an area in 2011, this is what I want to do. So I graduated with my PhD in 2009, so I've been for a while. And my passion, like you have to, I have passion for teaching. I love ethics. I'm a caring person. And then I found out that my students were not passing their examinations. That was like a block road. And I said, what can I do to help? So I started working in assessments and developing the academic language of bilingual students. And then I focus on to heritage Spanish speakers, and I develop assessments so I can help them out, improve their language, and be able to to move a little bit more into the careers, because many of them quit. Texas has a really strict policy. Before, you will take the test as many times you can, but now they're limited to 3 times. And if you don't pass it, you will not become a teacher. So you will spend all these years in school and not becoming a bilingual teacher, which is really sad. So educational policy, teacher shortage, anything that has to do with teaching preparation, teacher preparation programs, because you have to analyze the work that teacher preparation programs are doing to help, Latinos or others who are seeking bilingual certification. We have a lot of support for English native speakers, but we do not have a lot of the support for the bilingual candidates. So that's why I start going. I mean, I have so many years that I could, I've been working with that. And I have right now, I have 3-4 students who are going through the line of either parental involvement, because I see myself as a parent in the school, how I work out my way. And then parental involvement, try to define what is parental involvement, cultural relevant teaching with that, and then language development of bilingual teachers, and developing more areas and that I am finding, like in deaf and hard of hearing students and being in bilingual. That's an area that I'm looking forward to explore more, because educational policies sometimes do not include certain groups as like Chinese or Spanish or German. And then we have ASL as another language and it's not recognized. So those are my areas. A social justice aspect, like probably Dr. Murillo was saying, and definitely the influence of my training at Cal State with that kind of thought of social justice and service and do the right thing, do right no matter what. Yes, like the people might like you, they don't like you, but you always go with what is right, what is gonna help the student. And yes, there's a lot of politics that you learn, but once I understood how things work as a policy, I choose my, pick and choose my battles and just keep moving. Yeah. And I'm being with you, this program probably about 2 years, 3 years. Yeah. This is 3 years.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
You're welcome. Thank you. So,
Does
that's
anybody
me.
have any questions for Jacqueline?
Not necessarily a question, but just thank you so much for speaking with us tonight, Dr. Romano. Your energy and your passion, it comes through. And I just feel like for me to continue to get better at what I do, I want to be around individuals who are genuine and really care about students. So I felt that in you speaking, and that just made me realize that I'm in the right space. I'm going in the right direction if I'm able to be around individuals like yourself. So your energy was really good. Thank you.
Thank you. And you will be very well supported. I mean, I think the direction of the program, the doctoral program, has a tremendous view on supporting the students and understanding that many of us are first generation, because I call myself first generation, an immigrant, a second language learner, and being a mom and the struggles of navigating the doctoral. I see myself when I talk to my students, I say, let me tell you my story, and don't feel that we don't want to support you. We are here to support you, but you also have to take the lead on many of the decisions. I got my dissertation topics, I had to change it 3 times, 2 of those because some unethical practice from some professors who were gaming at the students. And I'm very naive, perhaps. I always feel like I always look the good on people, but I know there are bad intentions. And I tell my students, this is what happened. So cheer up, move forward. Let's see how can we help you and encourage you. So thank you for your time, Mr. Love. And really wish you the best. I know you are in good hands.
Okay, so with that,
Jimmy, it looks like Jimmy, oh, he was clapping.
Oh.
That's a clap. Okay.
Thank you. And
well,
then-
we have and just to honor your time, Dr. Romano, thank you for putting your contact information in the chat. So if anyone wants to touch base with Dr. Romano, you're welcome to do so. We'll go ahead and kind of take a little mini break with the breakout rooms one more time. So we'll do that for at least 10 more minutes. We have Dr. Karen Escalante joining us at 6:40. So we'll be in the breakout rooms. You could just be casual with whoever you want to go talk with. I'll put Dr. Murillo on one room and Dr. Sparks on the other. And then if you want to join and jump in, let me.
I gotta take a phone call right now, so maybe.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll put Dr. Brown-Welty in one room.
Okay, that's good.
I want to ask Jacqueline a question.
See,
Was she in kindergarten for 6 years? You said 6 years in kindergarten. No, I was kidding.
so I
You said that was
started.
6 years in
So
kindergarten.
I follow my daughter through all
I
the
just playing
years.
around. I know, obviously, right? I just said.
Oh, okay.
You said 6 years in kindergarten.
Yeah, no, I went to first to 6, but the teachers told me you are too old. You cannot continue in the middle school, go to the college.
All right, Sally.
Thanks.
Or if you just want to take a break, you can take a break.
Okay, let me start over. Hello, I'm Dr. Karen Escalante. I am an assistant professor in the College of Education, specifically teacher education and foundations. This is my 3rd year here at CSU San Bernardino. Some of my areas that I focus on in regards to research, my lines of inquiry have been focused on pedagogy, focused on anti-racist teaching practices. Those are some of my lines of research that I have engaged in. A huge piece of my research is also in regards to teaching performance assessments, specifically Cal TPA. I have experience with Ed TPA as well, but my research and the research that I currently do is focused on Cal TPA. Just finished a manuscript in regards to Cal TPA and critical race theory, and really looking at how we can prepare teacher candidates to embrace an anti-racist lens and really look at that deficit framework that sometimes is employed in our educational spaces. So we used critical race theory to look at California's teaching performance assessment. A project that I'm currently engaged in with Riverside County Office of Ed is looking at a sense of belonging within the teaching profession. So we know that across the board, we have a dearth of diverse teachers, diverse teacher candidates that are interested in the teaching profession. It's a matter of both attracting teacher candidates and retaining teacher candidates. That's true in our credential programs, and it's true in the profession. So with Riverside County Office of Ed, we have this joint partnership. We call it the IHE Induction Partnership, or Collaborative rather. And we meet 3 times a year. We have about 80 to 90 people that come in attendance throughout the entire state of California. And we've been engaged in some research. I recently did some surveys of our single subject, multiple subject candidates, and their feeling of belonging within the profession, because we know that this sense of belonging and whether candidates feel that they belong in their credential program and the profession is quite profound. And this is especially true for candidates and new teachers of color. So with Riverside County Office of Education, I'll be continuing this research to look at how new teachers express this same sense of belonging and how they feel. These new teachers through Riverside County Office of Ed are induction candidates that are graduates of CSUSB. because most of our teacher candidates at CSUSB move into induction within Riverside County Office of Ed. So there is this bridge. So we are able to see really this trajectory in this longitudinal study at how our candidates, our teacher candidates at CSUSB in the single subject, multiple subject credential programs, their sense of belonging based on their intersectionalities that they identify. Whether they then feel that same sense of belonging at their school sites and in the profession. So that's something that I'm working on with Riverside County Office of Ed. So a couple different research projects, again, looking at anti-racist teaching practices, because most of the teaching force is white. And so we have been prepared in a system, a PK through 12 system that is structured around white supremacy. So we really need to undo those stances once we have our candidates in the profession, so that we're not continuing to prepare candidates in a system built upon white supremacy. So anti-racist practices toward teacher candidates, looking at California's teaching performance assessment and teaching performance assessment in general, the standards that are engaged in that, how they are built upon practices and ideas built upon white supremacy as well, looking at teacher candidates and their sense of belonging, as well as new teachers in the profession and their sense of belonging. So those are some of the big pieces of research that I am engaged in. And I hope to connect with some of our doctoral students as we move through this year and the following. So I think that's all I have for us this evening.
Can I ask you a question about your work with RCOE?
Yeah.
I know that there's a number of school districts that are looking at instructional assistance for the teacher pipeline. Is that something that you might be supportive of at RCOE or looking into research around?
So right now, currently, we're just focused on, this project will expand. So we're starting small. So right now we're just focused on who are CSUSB credential candidates that are completing induction this year. So our goal is to survey them, find out their sense of belonging. So that's our starting point. I've already surveyed candidates, our current candidates here in the program, but looking at mentoring, looking at anti-racist practices within the the standards for the teaching profession, California standards for the teaching profession. These are all going to be elements that come into play throughout this, which will impact instructional practices, if that's what you were asking about, Audrey.
I was referring to instructional assistance.
Instructional assistance.
Yeah, the actual assistance, because I know LAUSD, and I think there was another major school district that started recruiting from their instructional assistants because they're typically of more diverse background. They already have the drive to be working. Like I was an instructional assistant in a SPED classroom, right? And no one ever said, hey, you could go get your credential. Versus now, yeah.
So there's a lot of funds being put toward that throughout the state of California. Actually, I was on I'm in a work group with UCLA that we've created a whole brochure in regards to money that's available for that purpose, in addition to some other purposes as well. But that is one of them, to recruit instructional aides, instructional support, paraprofessionals in the classroom, and prepare them for the profession as well. That's not something I'm currently researching, but I know there is money, and that is an area of research. It's not currently my area of research.
We did that here like maybe 16, 17 years ago. We had a paraprofessional program where take them out from being paraprofessionals, make them teachers.
There's a huge push for that right now. There really is. And there's money out there through CTC and the governor's budget and whatnot. It's just not one of my current focuses. Yeah.
Enrique, how did that work out? how did that pipeline, how successful was it? Because I was a part of something like that here in Las Vegas, and I found it really rich and rewarding because I had a passion for special education for me.
It was successful. Unfortunately, what happens is that we've had a lot of good professors over the years, but I don't know what you call it, empire building, where you have different professors, they build their little empire, but then when they retire, it doesn't get passed down to anybody. So, you know, we had Esteban Diaz and Juan Gutierrez. I know it was like really successful, but then they quit. They retired, and the whole thing just kind of like stopped with them, and nobody picked it up.
Thank you.
Did anybody have any questions for Dr. Escalante? Karen, thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. This
And tell
was
us your,
important.
Karen, tell us your exciting news about the CTC. Like you're the
I am
meta now, right?
president-elect, so
President-elect.
6-year term.
That's a huge,
2 years as president-elect, 2 years as president, 2 years as past president. I can't even wrap my head around 6 years. But anyway, one foot in front of the other. So yes, excited and a little bit anxious as well. But thanks, Enrique. Appreciate that. I have to teach right now, and I have invited one of the California Teachers of the Year that presented at our celebration of teaching, Michi Avina, who is Riverside County office of, in the Riverside County. And I think she's the only Filipino Teacher of the Year. So she's coming to my class right now at 7 o'clock. So I'm going to hop off. And thanks for having me, everyone.
Yes. Thanks for being here. Great.
You're welcome.
Great to see
Take
you.
care. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so with that, we have Dr. Gupta. Dr. Gupta, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm a professor of strategy and international management in the Department of Management. So it's very different from the other faculty members you have heard. And I'm also a core faculty. So I joined as a core faculty in the program, as the program is seeking to expand the group of faculty members who are available as resources to the students. So that's how I got invited into the program. My work is on culture and leadership. That's one of the main areas of research. Of course, I take a strategy and international management perspective to that. I've done significant work on cross-culture leadership. And when I'm talking about cross-culture, it's first of all mainly across borders. So that's the cross-culture, but also within borders as well. And a distinctive part of my research is a lot of collaborative research and a lot of multi-phase research with multiple books coming out of a project and multiple papers coming out of the project. So I'll just give an example. One of the earliest work that I did was the GLOBE research, Global Leadership and Organizational Behavior Effectiveness research. Some of you may have studied that. It's now there are more than 100,000 papers have been published on this work, which I co-edited while I was at Wharton School. So this is a study of 17,000 middle-level managers in 62 countries. And we look at different dimensions of societal and organizational level culture. For instance, uncertainty avoidance, collectivism, human orientation, gender, and power distance, and things like that. And look at issues from a psychological, sociological, and anthropological perspectives, and how these factors influence behaviors and performances in societies at the emic level, which is within societies, but also cross-culturally, and then validate that. So that work itself took about 6 years to do. And as I said, it has been widely used internationally. So if you're interested in working on culture at the organization level, or at a small suppose you have multicultural sample and you want to compare that, so that could be used.
Great. Have you been on any of our dissertation committees yet? Oh, he froze. Can't. I think he's frozen. I don't. Can anybody else hear him? No. Okay, well, maybe he'll log off and come back on.
So I did add Dr. Gupta's CV into that folder too, so you could take a look.
Out.
Perfect.
You froze for a minute.
In to doctoral students in India, and also a lot of faculty development programs I've offered, especially in India, but some here. So in terms of culture clusters and family businesses, we looked at how family businesses operate in different cultural regions, like Anglo region and Confucian Asian region and Latin American region. The role of religion, role of institutional factors, role of various cultural factors, ethos, economic factors. So I take a lot of system-based perspective, a lot of developmental perspective, and how all these factors influence development, inclusion, engagement of different groups in the societies. And interestingly, I spent 5 years at a women's university in Boston, where in the business school I was the only male faculty, so that was an interesting experience. So I did a lot of work on gender, including taking students study abroad. I take students education abroad quite a lot, and meeting a lot of women leaders in the UAE who typically don't even meet men, and I got to meet them. In Russia, in different parts of Europe, in India, and took students and had conversations with various women about their leadership journeys and what challenges they have faced. And so looking at inclusion from a very different perspective. Also in India, I advise and I'm on the governing boards of several universities and business schools, helping them inclusion with rural students, with a lot of who are essentially first generation students, and a variety of other aspects that these students can struggle with, including accents and a whole lot of other factors. So there were 11 books that I wrote and almost like 20 articles that came out of that family business project. The Globe work was done in collaboration with 162 investigators. Of course, I was one of the 5 lead investigators who co-edited the work and authored most of the chapters. Then over the last year, I have been working on a very integrative, multidisciplinary work. So I have written about 11 books over the last 16 months.
Wow.
And more than 1.5 million words, all original on different aspects, integrating spirituality, natural sciences, social sciences, management, and taking a metaphysical approach in addressing grand challenges of the societies and of sciences. So that's what I'm working on right now. And this is self-authored work, but a lot of other work which I've done, a lot of collaborative work and co-authored work with different people. and using, again, kind of different research methods. I also had the privilege of being an American Council of Education Fellow, where you spent a year working with different university presidents. So I spent 6 months in Brussels, meeting different university presidents and their teams on issues of inclusion, engagement, and new age, new technologies in Europe, and how the same is being implemented in the US. I spent 6 months at Arizona State University with the president, Michael Crow, there, and visited about 60 university presidents in USA, Europe, and some in India that year. So,
Great experience.
so I've been associate dean also of the College of Business, and so those are kind of things that I'm doing. So any questions, I'm happy to answer that. I've not taught anything here, but I've been on dissertation committees as a reader in India. So I've been on at least 40 different committees in evaluating theses and giving feedback. I've mentored a lot of undergraduate and graduate students in one-to-one in terms of their research journey.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us tonight for that information. We'll see if anybody has any questions. Anybody have any?
You have a lot of experiences. Wow. Thank you for sharing.
I'm gonna ask in the breakout room how to make like 30 articles for my dissertation. So I'll be in your room, okay?
It's all feasible if you have, if you know, if that's first the intention, and then of course
I have enough data.
Yes.
I did a case study. There was way too much data.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Anyone have any other questions or comments? And plus we will have our breakout rooms.
Well, I wanted to just let the students know, in case they didn't know, that being a case fellow is a very, or an ACE fellow is a very prestigious position. And the fact that he went to several universities is a really, that's a real feather in our program's cap that he's part of our program. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. I'll bring that up because we have a few students looking at presidential positions, right? Like looking to do their research. So that I'll keep that in mind. Thank you again. And so you can all find out a little bit more about that ACE ACE program fellows. The and so
Dr. Young's here.
Yes.
Can I see him? Oh, there is King.
Yes.
King is here.
Hi, King. I'm going to ask you to also mention your wonderful position on the IRB, in addition to all the wonderful things that you're going to share with us in just a moment. Go right ahead.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. My name is King To Young, and I usually go by King, so you can just call me King. And I am a faculty at the sociology department. So, so I'm not at all an expert on education, but I'm very happy to be part of this program, as an affiliated faculty member. So this is my first year as an affiliated faculty. So I'm still learning about the program, but I am very happy to be able to contribute to your progress, your development. So I think I'm gonna say a little bit, maybe first a little bit my background.
Oh, good.
I've just been everywhere, So I grew up in Hong Kong. So I'm a Chinese Cantonese speaking person. When I studied under the colonial British system. So I have some experience of the colonial style of education, which might be interested in some of you. And then, but I left, my family left Hong Kong in the 90s. So I went to the territory of Guam, in the Pacific. So it's Americans' territory. So I had my bachelor degree there at the University of Guam, so which is also a very interesting cross-cultural experience. I know a little bit about the Pacific Islands and their culture, so and the political system there. So that may be of use for some of you. And then I got my master's degree in Texas Tech University West Texas. So it is, and then also my PhD at Rutgers University in New Jersey. All of these degrees are sociology degrees. So I have a lot of sociology, which is somewhat connected to education. But the only time I have taught is a long time ago. I taught a class on sociology of education, which is sort of my only background of education. But I came here, CSUSD, in 2014. So this is my about eighth year of my time here. And prior to this, prior to CSUSD, I was in another institution that I have be part of the dissertation committees, and I taught graduate classes. So I have, I love to work with PhD students, and I would really looking forward to working with some of you. So something of what I do and what I can contribute, I think for my teaching, right now I'm teaching mostly research method. And I sort of consider myself as a methodologist. So I have some experience of all kinds of methods, basically. But right now, my teaching concentrates on survey research. So if you need help on surveys, design, that's usually the biggest problem for students. And I think I can be of help in that area, survey designs. And of course, that connects to statistical analysis too. So statistics is not my strongest area, but I can handle it. So that's the kind of thing, I can also understand that, the struggles, students have with statistics, but I think I usually take that perspective, and when I work with students to help them to sort of understand the basic foundation, right? Ideas. I think the ideas is more important sometimes than the technical part, which can be dealt with by computer programs, So surveys and statistics, my teaching area, and another area that crosses my research and teaching is social network. So I study social networks and also teaches social network. And social network is sort of a new, in the past 20 years, sort of very popular way of understanding organizations, institutions, and society. And it is a very interesting way of looking at connections and relationships among people, and also between people and organizations. And so I think that might be also an area your students research, and maybe some ideas, when you're thinking about education and leadership, networks is always, it can be an interesting perspective, a network thinking a perspective to deal with the problem of your research. So that in that area, I think I can contribute a little bit there. My own research generally sort of deals with these kind of issues, networks, bureaucracies particularly. So a lot of you dealing with education probably as an organization, but that organization is a bureaucracy actually. Bureaucracies is a particular form, for me, particular form of social relationships. It involves, how positions are divided, and how authority and power is also divided across those positions. And people, as individuals, are somehow entered to this organizational form and do things sometimes not of their will, right? So that will be sort of, for me, it's interesting way of understanding society and social relationships. And perhaps some of your projects involving education will touch upon bureaucratic organizations in that way. So that may be, that's something I'm always interested in, bureaucracies, institutions, in that line of research. But other than that, previously in my other institution, I taught graduate classes on cultural analysis, so it is not really cross-culture understanding as much as it is trying to study how we deal with meanings, culture based on meaning. So how do we deal with text, for example, textual analysis? How do we think philosophically sometimes think about meaning constructions? So that may be related to projects that have to do with interviews, storytelling, those kind of qualitative style research. So in that sense, that may be something I could be a resource, in that sense. So, but on the Audrey talked about my IRB yes position. So right now, currently, I am a vice chair of the IRB institution review board, and which review a lot of students and also faculty's projects on their ethical matters. So generally, if you do any research with human subjects, human beings, you will need approval from the IRB. So, and I'm part of that group, the board that will reviews and approve most of these projects. And so if it doesn't have to be, I'm your advisor, but anyone, any students who have any problems or questions, about the procedures, you need some clarification. Sometimes you may need just suggestions about how to deal with, some of the issues. Come to me, just talk to me, call me or email me. I may give you some guidance or clarification on the application process. It is, the board has been increasingly try to help, researchers, students, and faculties to make this process less burdensome, right? So make it more efficient and also make it more friendly to the researcher. So I hope that that if you have any question, we will try to make it easier for everybody. So that's basically, I'm here to help if I can.
So King, I have a student right now who's she's in her lit review, but she's looking at e-leadership and the whole scenario around what are leadership characteristics when you're particularly dealing with international corporations, or if you're dealing with e-learning and e-leadership that may or may not be international. So we might be knocking on your door.
Sure.
She hasn't
Anytime.
designed, she hasn't actually designed what she's going to do yet. She's just been reading the literature, but it sounds like it's right up your alley.
Yeah, if you just want to brainstorm some ideas with me, feel free to. Yeah,
great.
sure.
Thanks. And since you're on the board, we might tap you to figure out how we can get a workshop for just our doctoral students on the IRB.
Yeah, definitely. That would be good too. Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah, we can arrange. Sure.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Scholars, any questions for any of our faculty or King in particular? Okay. All right, so what we'll do, since we have a few minutes allotted for this, and King, are you able to stay for a little bit longer?
Yes.
Is everyone able to stay till about 7:30 or 7:20 or so? 7:30?
Sure.
Okay, so what I'll do is just kind of do some breakout rooms again, and that way we can have smaller conversations and kind of go from there. All right, so you're welcome to, I'll go ahead and put Dr. Gupta in one room, and I'll put Dr. Young in another room, and you're all welcome to to go ahead and add yourself. You can join the room by choice and have a conversation.
So it's saying that you're inviting me to join Dr. Young.
Oh, you're going to be in your own room if that's all right.
So
Dr.
not now. Okay,
Okay.
very good.
Okay.
No, it says that you have been assigned to Dr. Young. Okay,
Oh, did I assign you? I'm sorry.
yeah.
Okay, you can move to you should be able to move like out of that room and into a different room. So if you click on, or let me see if I can just assign you. And let me see.
Okay, good.
Good. Okay. All right. We'll see you in a little bit, about 7:30. I'll pull back.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna hit got it here. Hi, I'm Susan Jindra, and my gosh, I've been here 14 years already. Oh my Lord, it's gone by so fast. So my background is I was a teacher, elementary teacher. I also have a library media credential, so I was a school librarian in middle and high school. I was a TOSA and staff development for a district. And then I went in, got a master's and went into educational administration. So I was an assistant principal, director, curriculum, and what else did I do? Oh yeah, assistant soup in a couple districts. So, so a big background in the area of leadership. I teach in the program, educational administration. I teach the educational leadership theory. I teach the finance class, both for the doctorate and for the master's degree. I work with teachers that have already been appointed assistant principals, coordinators, or administrators. Before they finish the program, they're known as administrative interns. We have 18 of them, so I mentor them. It's great, we have a lot. And then, I have some field work students. So they're, still coming out of the classroom. They have to have at least 5 years of experience to go for this master's and admin credential. So I have a lot of experience, in the TK now, 12 realm mainly. And like I said, I do teach in the finance class. And so we do both college and the K-12 in that. So eventually you will have me for that class too. So, I've done a lot of research with the principal and teacher relationship and relationship building and how important that is. Professional learning communities, whether they're in college arena or in the K-12 arena. What else have I done? Well, another thing that we're doing now in my program is that like the teachers have to take these TPAs to be a teacher. Well, now it's in administration and they're called California Administrative Performance Assessments, and there's 3 of them. In fact, I was teaching a class tonight where I have that integrated, and they have to look at data analysis, quantitative, qualitative, and they have to come up with an equity gap. So I'm really working in that arena, looking at equity gaps and looking at, what are factors at the school that affected the school that they have these gaps, and then how do they come up with strategies, and then work with their principals and get feedback on that. And then another one, we work on the professional learning community coming up with a problem of practice. So that's another big thing we work on a lot is problem. And I know you're doing that now in the doctorate program, problem of practice, and coming up with, well, what is it, and actually having to implement one with a group. You have to have a group of 4 or 5 educators on your committee. And then the last one that we do is on a teacher, finding a volunteer teacher, then working with them and doing a classroom observation and working on one of the standards for the teaching profession. And then we've integrated coaching now into our program, which I would have liked that as a principal because I didn't get all those techniques on how to coach a teacher to improve their pedagogy and everything like that. So that's a lot of what I'm doing, trying to help people become effective leaders. And today we talked about the fellowship leadership, and talking about how important it is to build those relationships with your followers, because you can't be a leader and look behind you, there's no followers. So it's very important you have those strong leaderships. And how do you do it? And we talked about different kind of followers. You've got the ones that kind of the rocks, and they don't want to really do anything or listen to you or whatever. What do you do about them? And then you've got the over anxious ones, and then you've got the ones that will work with you. And so how do you deal with all of the different the people and all their personalities and be able to meet the goals that you have for your organization? Yeah, so we look a lot at our mission goals and vision in our institutions and how we deal with that. So Jimmy, feel free to ask questions.
Susan, have you been on dissertation committees before?
Yes, I was on, most recently I was on 2 with Angela. Yeah.
And have you chaired any?
No, I can't because I'm affiliated.
Okay.
Yeah,
You have been on them, so that's
oh
good.
yes, oh absolutely, I've been on them for several years.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, and I just finished 2 last spring.
Great.
And I've already been approached by someone, a doctorate student who wants to meet with me next week.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay,
and so all subject areas, and what we teach in the schools. It doesn't take out that I couldn't do somebody who's in the college cohort, okay? Because we're all talking about leadership. It's all about leadership. And so I try to expose my students to all kinds of things. Tonight for the fellowship one, there was a passage from a book, and the book is called The Boys. If I show it to you, probably look backwards or something, but it's called The Boys in the Boat. And it's about 9 Americans in their epic quest for gold. They were rowers from the University of Washington. And it really shows the fellowship theory of leadership really well. So we had a really good discussion after looking at that case study. That's another thing I do. I've developed case studies of schools and situations, and how do you as a new leader deal with this? What are your strategies going to be, and things like that. So,
Great.
I've done so many things in my, like Sharon, I'm not going to mention how many years we've been in this business. A long time been in this business. But, leadership is leadership. And even the book that we're using by Northhouse is a book, management leadership, but everything, he's got examples from schools and from hospitals and all over that we can use. And, again, leadership is leadership, but a lot of it is about relationships. And that's what my dissertation was about the principal and the new teacher relationship. And I really, enjoyed doing that. And I learned a lot through that research and stuff. But yeah.
So anybody have any questions for Susan? Great. Well, Susan, thank you very much. I know you just spent the evening teaching, so you get.
I'm tired of sitting. I'm hungry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
anything
very
I
much.
can do to help anyone in that arena, I'm glad. And like I said, I can do college or K-12, but I have most experience in the K-12 range, but 14 years here too. So I've been here longer, Sharon, than I was at any school or any district. I can't believe it.
No. Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Well,
Nice
thank
seeing
you,
you
Susan.
all. Thank you,
Well-
Audrey, for arranging this. It was very nice. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you were able to make it and we had everybody join and we were able to record it. So
Yes, it'll be-
any closing thoughts, Dr. Brown-Welty or Dr. Murillo?
That was a great evening. I am so thankful that we have such great faculty that will show up and do this and interact. Maybe next year when COVID is gone, we can do this really the right way with crackers and cheese and face to face. And we'll do it that way. But for now, this is great because we've recorded it. And for those who couldn't attend, they'll be able to take a listen. So thank you, everybody, for spending the evening with us.
Bye.
And you, Jimmy, you get kudos.
Yes.
You made it through. Bye-bye.
All right.